here shortly, which will do a 200-year history on Ojenke's family from Cedar Parish, Louisiana, so we can know of the lineage. And that will be in about 10 minutes. We're going to have Kamal Daoud come in and speak a few words to us so we could get this Ojenke upliftment going on. Kamal Daoud. Bless. Papa.
Yeah, he done drug me up to the microphone, but first of all, it's just so great to see everybody here to celebrate Ojenke's life, and all of us as family, we seeing faces we ain't seen in months, and we telling stories that, 50 and 40-year-old stories, and it's a wonderful thing. But we have to say this all the time, is that we got to start doing this before these times too. That's really, really, really important. I was telling my wife, it really touched me so much that I that actually had a part in creating a space where we're housing Ojenke's memorial. I mean, that just means so much to me. That we're able to be here for the. And Dwight and Renee, they're doing such a wonderful job here, to keep this stuff going. At a certain point, after about 20 years, I said, I have a full-time job down here with no pay, and I'm sorry I got to check out for a while, So, I'm just thankful for that. But I mean, we go on and on with who Ojenke was, and all the different things that he meant to so many people, and it really messed me up to not be able to see him anymore. But he instilled so much in me. He's not gone from me, and even if when I think something and I'm thinking a little strange, and I can think about what Ojenke would say about it, because he always had something to say about what you're thinking, It just seems like he didn't, read about in one subject, and you talking about something, and he's quoting from about 5 other different books, Ojenke was, oh man, he was, man, I remember we did so many readings together. One time we was with Tapscott, and we was at a prison. And then so Ojenke started reading, and all the prisoners started jumping up and down, and the warden came, okay, stop, we got to stop this, and they stopped the concert, because Horace and them didn't even get a chance to play because Ojenke's poetry was inciting the prisoners. I remember another time we went to this hippie thing, and we was reading, getting ready to read some poetry. They had hired us to go out there. Ojenke started reading. After reading, them white folks, they got so worked up that they say, the rest of you guys, can we pay you all not to read? And they paid us not to read. I got stories after stories after stories, but the compassionate side, of Ojenke. Here I am, at 30 years old, and I have 5 kids. Ojenke was always there for me, no matter what it was, and artists. Another of my mentors, John Otterbridge, he said, being an artist is like being wounded with a blessing. Being wounded with a blessing, because that's the kind of thing that you carry. You carry this thing where you're touched, and you try to get out there. As young artists, we get in our own way. There's this bird, and actually it's a wingless bird that gets in your way. It's called the ego. And when you're young, the ego gets in the way, and you trying to all puffed out, thinking you something or wanting to be something, stuff like that. But after a while, you understand that the work, you're a conduit. you know, a partner of mine used to say a prayer before we got ready to do a gig, and he said, Lord, please help us to vacate ourselves. Get out the way. You know, so the goodness, the richness of stories and things that are taught to us, and the things that are passed down to us, and the things that lift us up and make us better and bring us closer together. So we can import that, because that's what the kind of artists that we're talking about, that Father Amdi would tell you about, those kind of artists, you know, that's what it's about. It wasn't about, you know, how much was the gig, although we some of us could kick ourselves in the butt because we didn't know how to handle that properly. But it was about the spirit first. It was about our commitment to the community first. That was first and foremost, you know. And so anyway, JJ, man, you got me running up here up to loud, man. Come over here before I tell that JJ joke, man. I was getting ready to tell him, man. I love y'all. All right.
We love you. Come out. Come on. So we have to have the daughter come up, please, and have Oshun give us revelations of a father's love. Oshun, take your time, baby. This house is yours today. It ain't no rush. You ain't gonna, but just take your time and do what you do, baby.
Hello. So I didn't get to share what I wanted to share. It wasn't going to be long, but I just wanted to say I grew up in a house full of love. Love was first, a lot of music, knowledge, ganja. I wouldn't have said this at the funeral, but I got a little more time. I spent a year or two of my life contact high and didn't realize it because I didn't know. I got straight A's too, so it didn't hurt. But yeah, a lot of love, a lot of music, a lot of people, good people, most of you here today, and a lot of wisdom and knowledge. And when I would have times when I would forget who I was or I was doubting myself, he would look me straight in the eyes and always had some kind of wisdom to remind me of who I am and my worth and my purpose. And so as I was looking for pictures, I found a notebook from 1978-79, him and my mother's writing in here. But this one I feel like he wanted to remind us all once again of who we are. I don't think this was ever made to a poem. This has been sitting in a box for the last 30 plus years. But so it's like, little children, please don't run. I am a being whose home is the sun. The Most High sent me to your earth to warn those whose souls still have worth. The Almighty has heard the call of those who cry for Babylon's fall. Little children, it was a long time ago, longer than you'll ever know, when the Lord called forth his angels of light and sent them forth into the night. By light rays they traveled to this earth and made Africa the land of man's birth. Little children of the black man, long before the coming of the white man, your African ancestors were angels, not like the winged beings of white novels, but as beings of light clothed in black skin, because black bodies are best to hold light within. And that, I feel like, was a last words of wisdom from Papa to us.
So I know someone else out there has some, valuable moments to share. Please come up. Mark Tyson will be here with a minute with the genealogical story. Come on, Blue. I know you true. Come give it to us. Houston Blue. Come give it up, baby.
RASPOET OJENKE. Okay, so 1991, I was in Hollywood on Melrose and Highland. We were all much younger. Kenneth Severin was sitting out there, and he heard me throwing down. I was cursing and mad at the world. My brother was getting shot. My mother was sick. And I just let him have it. He said, you know what? I'm going to take you to your community. I know where these poems are coming from. He put me in the car. He took me to 54th and 10th to Kabasa House. Give it up for Kabasa House, y'all. Ojenke was living there. Everyone, all the drummers, Leon, it was like Nyabingi every day. And I sat at their feet. That's 30 years ago. And I was taught about black writers, who the Sufis are, what negritude is, what Sun Ra is, what the black poets were doing, what the fake people weren't doing. And by the time I finished getting knowledge from them, I had to go to like 2 universities. And by the time I got through, I had a master's in post-colonial English lit, which is third world literature. I traveled to Morocco, Ethiopia, Zanzibar. Oh my God. I was in the Atlas Mountains, you know, with the people that you call Rastas here, Bifal in Senegal. But how did I get there? Because of Ras, Ojenke, and the Watts Writers Workshop and the Watts Prophets, who were right there telling the 90s poets what to do, what to study. And I had the distinction, I'll just show you this. I had the distinction of being in a show at Kabasa, which was an all day. Everyone was there. The Watts Prophets, Sandra Sharp, S. Pearl, all the poets were there. You know, right? So I'm going to name the people that are on here. And I might have been one of the younger ones then. But to be in that kind of power, sometimes I would go to Ojenke's and just check in, just sit and listen. Whatever he wanted to talk about. You know what I'm saying? So when we have elders among us, when we have wise people among us, we have to, sit at their feet, shut your mouth, and learn something. And I'm so thankful, you know? First, I was in Hollywood with the Wanda Colemans and the Keith Antar Masons and Mary Donqua. But Kenneth said, I'm going to take you home now. I ended up at the Watts Towers in Kabasa House, and nothing has been the same. The names on here starts with Ojenke, Watts Prophets, Lynn Manning, Kamal Daoud, Willie Sims, Eric Priestley, Quincy Troop, Sandra Sharp, Kenneth Severin, Johnny Scott, Fatisha, Will Alexander, K. Curtis Lyle, and Houston Blue. What a privilege. Thank you. God bless.
When I think about first generation black people that families came from Louisiana and Texas. So to come to find out that our families knew each other in Cedar Parish, Louisiana. The history is going to be given by Mark Tyson. It's a remarkable, absolutely amazing story of how our parents in the 40s left Louisiana, came to Los Angeles, and made their families here. And we all end up meeting each other. When you hear this story, it's absolutely amazing. Mark Tyson. Everyone, Mark Tyson.
Without my guitar. That's rare now. I never got up in front of people doing anything without my guitar. But JJ's right. Me and JJ and Ojenke had a house on 69th Street back in 1985. And back then, we were all really into history, heavy into history. We were reading Check on to Diop, Van Sertima, all of them things. And for me, it morphed into genealogy. By the late 80s, I'm listening to my grandma and my uncles, and they start telling me stories. So for me, it morphed. And ever since then, I've been doing family tree, family history. And I come to find out a lot of my friends are also from Caddo Parish, which is around Shreveport, you know. And if you're from Marshall, Texas, where Ojenke's family's from, they a hop, skip, and a jump from Shreveport. So I started connecting the dots on a lot of this stuff. JJ's family is from right in the same community as my family, straight out of slavery. And that's the Wells family. Now here it goes. I don't know. Well, that's not my phone, okay? He has Wells in his history. And I've come to find out the Wells were like neighbors to my family, straight out of slavery. So if you're doing genealogy, that's like 1870 census, straight off the plantation. But dang, well, JJ's great-great-grandparents must have known mine. They were living right almost next door to each other. So that's why he's talking about how it all ended up like this. Fritz Wise. Is Fritz in the house? The Wise family, also neighbors to a lot of my family. On my Herndon side, the Herndons and the Wises intermarried. So we end up becoming cousins by proxy. Even though we don't share the same blood ancestors, some of our cousins married some of his cousins. So we're all cousins by proxy. One of my cousins married a Singleton, which is OJENKE's family. And I haven't connected that yet to know if it's the exact same Singleton family. But this led me one day to come by OJENKE's house. Teresa might remember. And we sat on his computer, this might be 10, 15 years ago, and got on Ancestry. And I'm telling him, OJENKE, I've been researching the family, and you're from Marshall. And a bunch of my family settled in Marshall, Texas. So we're looking it up. And I was able to determine a lot of his grandparents. And he's calling Mama Saxon, he calls his mom. Starting to get these names straight. And so that's how it kind of started with OJENKE and I, is this family's from Marshall, Texas. And they're one of the main black cemeteries, or rather funeral homes, is the Rambo Funeral Home. And those are my cousins. So a lot of people buried in Marshall and gone through the Rambo Funeral Home. So I got a list of his ancestors. And I just want to name them off, because this is griot tradition. We want to know our ancestors and honor them. And within the last week, I talked to his sister, Regina. I don't know her face. There she is. I didn't meet her at the service. So I might have a few new names for you. So we went over some of these names. I told her the same story that I went over this with OJENKE once. She called her cousin, his name Sai, in Marshall, Texas. Ends up, they knew the Rambos. So I go, this is heavily connected. So this is what I want to do, is just make these names known. Through these ancestors, all of us exist today, and we like to honor them. These are the ones we know, and all the ones we don't know. And I'm going to be able to go back to people that were born during slavery in the early 1800s. So some of the people I'm going to name off will be enslaved people, came off the plantation. In my research, I found that they all owned their own farms, almost all of them. So your people was landowners. Ministers, but landowners. They weren't just what they call tenant farmers, sharecroppers. You owned your own land. The Singletons, all these different families. So here we go. OJENKE's parents, Alvin Saxon Sr. and Arletta Singleton. Now we're going to go to the grandparents. Ike Saxon and his wife, America McCowan. And I located Ike's mother, is Lucy Saxon, possible father of Ike Sr. America's parents are Newton McCowan and Jane Williams. So those would be OJENKE's great-grandparents. On his Singleton side, Monroe Singleton and his wife, Letty Campbell. The connections are getting funny. I scribbled it. There's a Miniweather in there. I made a mistake. Okay, well, the Miniweathers come in, I think, through Letty Campbell. I'm sorry. I didn't do this right. Squire Miniweather. And then now we're getting to people born in slavery. He was born in 1830. Monroe Singleton was born in 1855. He was born in slavery. His wife, Letty, born in 1851. So anything before 1865, they were born slaves. Squire Miniweather married Lucy Bennett. She was born in 1855. Those are all OJENKE's great-grandparents. So if you do genealogy, every generation doubles. You got 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-grandparents. It just keeps doubling on you. So when you get to second great grandparents, I've located maybe 2 or 3. Yeah, 4 of those 16. Nathan McCowan and America Jones are the parents of Newton McCowan. Abraham Singleton and Charlotte Scott are the parents of Monroe Singleton, all of them born in slavery. Nathan McCowan, born 1847. I don't know when America Jones is. And remember when we talked on the phone, Regina, you were curious about the name America? That's where it comes from. That's her grandmother. So America Jones was her grandmother. Yeah, another 2 Americas. Well, this is where it goes back to. It may go back further, but America Jones married Nathan McCowan. I just don't know when she, because they died before there was records. But there's a marriage certificate. That's how I know her name. And then Abraham Singleton was born in Mississippi in 1810. Charlotte Scott was born in 1827 in Virginia. And those are the names that we know, and we want to honor them. For the family, anybody can call me. Most of these names you guys knew. I think I added a couple. Yeah. And if anybody is interested in genealogy, hit me up, because I do love doing that. And I've talked with Amdi about this, his people from Louisiana, especially if your family's from Louisiana. I got stacks and stacks of records on Louisiana family. Anyway, honor my brother OJENKE. We love you. Back when we're living together and just sitting around with OJENKE playing music, it was almost a daily thing. And I'm trying to remember, what were some of those songs, you know? And a verse came to me. I remembered the verse and I remembered the chords. So, it's one verse. Yeah. If anybody was hanging at the house back in them days, Damu, Safi, any of y'all that was around Lou, you might have heard OJENKE sing this one. That's a poem. This is actually one of his songs. He might have did it with his Star Walkers band. You know, it was one of his reggae songs. I just brought my acoustic. Can I get a chair, JJ? Yeah. No, that one's got arms on it. This one's better, yeah. Still in tune, all right. I don't know what the name of this song was, but I guess I'm going to call it Rastaman style. It's kind of got a possible hook. I ride through the day with a smile, and I stride through the night like a child. My soul moves upstream just like the Nile, and I praise the Lord all the while. Yes, I praise the Lord all the while. I guess that's just the Rastaman style. I guess that's just the Rastaman style. And that's all I remember. One verse. One verse. OJENKE was a brilliant songwriter. He wrote beautiful tunes. I witnessed a few people come by and ask to cover his songs back then, and he would say, nah, no. So he wrote some great tunes for any of you that never actually heard him sing some of his old songs. He wrote some really good tunes. There's got to be some old cassettes of the Star Walker. Who's got that stuff? Way back in the 80s, late 70s. I was told that the miners of circular blade was stuff you threw away. Then you picked it up and pressed it. That's what I was told. I got my copy. And Jacob told me he threw them combs away. Mr. Gibb. Yeah, that whole coast of miners of circular was his stowaway. That's what he told me directly. That's what the miner told me. That's the truth. I heard it straight from Imperial.
Janky was really a neglected cat. If you didn't know, now you know. Janky was different and original. And so originals are like that. You're not going to get a print out of an original. He's an original. Damu Vusha.
Perfect Love. I met OJENKE in 1968, 69, Black Student Alliance. He was a soldier and a warrior. And it was some kind of way I got to meet him full circle. And he's one of the strongest men to walk the earth that I have ever met. I heard someone else say that. They're so true. And we all heard all of the other stupid, cool things about our brother. Perfect Love.
Right on, Damu. So can we just open up the floor before I bring in the musicians to play some music? If anyone has a moment of recollection or something really important to say about OJENKE, this is that moment, that we like to honor him, because I'm going to bring in some musicians and we're going to start up some music shortly. But please, the floor is open. If you'd like to impart any wisdom you have from OJENKE or share a moment, tell a tale, it's all good. The floor is open. Come on, soul brother. You go all the way back to 3rd grade. You got a lot to say.
Well, because of time constraints, I couldn't say all the things that we did together and how I got my best friend and brother in trouble a lot of times. And we're not going to go into that. But during, I think it was 1968, after he had gone over to the writers' workshops and he started doing his poems and stuff, and I had gotten home from one of my trips, and he was giving a poetry recital, him and some other people from the Watts Writers Workshop. But anyway, and I was recording this. I have no idea where the tapes are now. It's on reel to reel. But there was a man there that wanted to, that acknowledged the poetry and stuff. This was, like I said, 1968, way before it was really popular. So that they would do their poems with a certain cadence and everything, not necessarily music behind it, but they created their own rhythm to it. And the guy came over to me because he saw me recording and asked if I knew him and stuff. And I said, yeah, and I had introduced him to OJENKE afterwards. And what he wanted to do is record them to music. And basically that was maybe 4 or 5 years before rap became popular. So basically he had a chance to, I guess, make a lot of money and start the rap era, but money was not important to OJENKE and his friends. The message, the poetry, and what they were saying, that was his motivation and stuff, and he stayed true to that throughout the years. So I just wanted to say that story after I heard somebody talking about having a chance to make some money, and you didn't necessarily jump on all of it, but just some of it. But that's who he was. Okay, that's all.
Girl. So, good people, I will not be long, but I will be strong. But before I speak, I would love for my wife to speak. They say behind every good man is a good woman, and this certainly is the case in her. Can y'all share some energy to my wife?
You said that wrong. Beside every good man, there's a better woman. So one of my most fond memories of OJENKE was when we were doing an event and we were honoring the Watts Writers Workshop. So it was about a week-long event. So we got a chance to spend like every day with the Watts Prophets, Baba OJENKE, everybody, right? And so at one point we went to go do a panel discussion. And so Baba Amdi said, Sax, I need you to run the panel discussion because you know how to politely cut people off, right? And I need you to make sure that everybody don't go too long. So I said, all right, I got this, right? So then it got to the point where, we're doing the discussion, and it was OJENKE's turn to speak. And OJENKE was sitting there, he had his paper in his hand, right? Baba said, we can't hear you. Give OJENKE the mic, right? So I grabbed the microphone and went to go take it to OJENKE. And I was like, here you go. And OJENKE was just sitting there with the paper. He was ready. He was still talking, still with the paper, right? So Baba said, Sax, hold the mic. Let us hear OJENKE. So I'm standing next to him. I'm holding the mic. OJENKE starts reading, and all of a sudden my hands start shaking. And I was like, okay, I ain't never really nervous. I don't know what this is, right? So I was like, but OJENKE went in, and he was like, and everything in the room started vibrating, and I was like, whoa. So, I honor that moment because how many people get to say that they held the microphone for the man to speak and shake the room that way?
Woo. 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 So I'm a child of Watts, grew up in Watts, went to Grape Elementary, Markham Junior High, and Jordan High School. And when I was at Grape Street Elementary, it was a barbershop on 113th in Wilmington called Mitchell's Barbershop. They had magazines there. The Watts Writers Workshop was in that magazine, and also the Watts Prophets was in that magazine. And Mitchell would run down the history about this energy. I'm like, Watts Writers Workshop? Watts Prophets? It was super heroes to me at that time. So moving through the energy, I grew up, then was in the energy, gang banging, peace treaty, truce, all of that. And one of the things I remember is that Elegba, OJENKE's, when he transitioned, I went to his funeral because he was my childhood friend. And RASPOET OJENKE was right there. He read, I read, we talked. And then after that encounter, I was already vibrating with Baba Amdi. And we started talking about numbers. And Amdi said, hey, you and your wife, go see OJENKE. You talking about them numbers, go see him. Went to see him. He blew our muffin caps back purple. In that energy, he taught us the language of the stars, the language of the heavens. He told me I thought I was a Virgo. He said, nah, O'Shea, you not a Virgo, you a Leo. And he showed me my lunar return. He showed me how my solar return was one day, but my lunar return was another. And I was a Leo. So with that being said, we were talking about the Watts Writers Workshop, 1965, right? The brother was talking about 1865 when we exploded out of the South, right? 1865 to 1965 is how long? 100 years, right? Right? And now the 100 years to today, talking about the Watch Writers Workshop, we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of that workshop. So 100 plus 60 is what? 160. You add the 6 and the 1, you get what? 7. OJENKE Life Path number was 7, or is 7, because we don't do was, is 7. So with that, I just give honor to my Baba, Father Amdi, for linking us up with OJENKE, and it's been a cosmic, groovy energy that I would cherish and vibrate in for the rest of my life. One love.
Okay, I better hurry up and speak before I forget what I'm going to say, but I want to piggyback on O'Shea. Oh, as a matter of fact, I'm Tina. I'm Dee's daughter. I'm going to piggyback on the stars and the aspect of OJENKE teaching you about space and things. OJENKE actually was my school teacher. We were going through a period of time when my parents, we were kind of rebellious against the system in public schools and blah, blah, blah. And we just happened to go from this school called Freedom School, and we went on to OJENKE School. So OJENKE, man, I tell you, when he speaks of astrology and stars, that was part of our curriculum. Now, mind you, we didn't have a school board or nothing. OJENKE was the school board. And our parents were the PTA. So anything OJENKE recommended, mom and dad were like, yeah, we're with that too. So it wasn't no big, it was all real. But anyway, our schedule consisted of hibiscus tea in the morning when we arrived, math, because of course his science was math and things like that. But see, one thing about OJENKE, he knew everybody didn't get math. Because I was the main one, I don't like math. I don't like math. And he asked me, do you know what math is? And I said, yes, addition, subtraction. He said, no, it's not. It's about numbers. And I'm thinking in my head, that is math. But anyway, he showed me another aspect of math. But he also taught us about astrology and the planets and the stars and how you align yourself and figure out who you are by what's up in the sky. And I'll never forget, because he said, I'm a true Taurus. I'm a Taurus to boom, May the 3rd. He said, you're one of the truest Tauruses. And so through my lifetime and through my struggles, everything, I would always, most of you guys would have to call upon OJENKE, because he was the master of intelligence and putting things together for you in the simplest forms. And he would always say, you have to incline yourself to be inclined, inclination, inclusive, on how you figure yourself out. And so I'm telling you, over my years, and like I said, during my struggles, I would go to OJENKE, and he would always say, well, sister, you just got to be able to incline yourself in what you're going through. You have to be inclusive and not step outside what you're going through. And he taught me to sum it up. He used to always say, sum it up to the lowest denominator in life. Try not to make it so complicated. And he was just about numbers and science, but till the day he actually left, me and my sister Kelly, we would be tripping off the planets, and we was like, call OJENKE. And he would explain to us exactly what was going on, because he had taught us. And so we said, we better call the teacher who taught us about it. And he would always show us how to bring things back into perspective and to just always think logically. Think outside the box, but also be in the box at the same time, because that's the only way you can make sense of things. And that's all I wanted to say, and I've been knowing him since I was a little girl, and that hasn't been that long ago. And so it's been decades of OJENKE in our family. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, I wish I could say a lot of things about OJENKE like a lot of people have said, but I did not know OJENKE for as long as a lot of you have known him. My name is Jamin Mobley, and I came to California in 1995. I came to work Disneyland because my brother refused the job. My brother's Leon Mobley. You all may know who he is. But we're both drummers. And a lot of you may have seen me in the community, and you recognize me as one of the community drummers for a long time. But I got here in '95 from Boston, Massachusetts. And my struggle in Boston was quite a black struggle, if you know how racist the city of Boston is. And to be conscious coming from there on your black identity was a big struggle. So I was happy coming here and meeting people in the village here. My first time meeting OJENKE was I was on stage singing, but it was for a I want to say ceremony, but not ceremony, but what we are doing now, a repast, basically, okay, for his girl who had passed away. And I was singing "My Woman Is Gone" by Bob Marley. And Wadada was playing music. This first time I was really seeing Wadada play, and I got up on stage with him and I started singing that song. And it touched him very much. And I can remember him saying, wow, that brother said the right song because my woman's gone. And for the next few times he saw me, he reminded me that I did that for him. So that was the first day I met quite a few people in the community. Rootsman's mother, we call her Mama Africa. And Amdi was around that day too. And it was really a very blessed day. Then, the more I was on the scene with JJ, because JJ was one of the first drummers I chose to work with in the LA area. And I took him on my first performance that I got by myself at one of the colleges here, down the street. And the sister that got me that gig was Kathy Pearson, who recently passed in January. So I took JJ on that gig, and from that day, JJ and I were close, and every time I was drumming, it was JJ was taking me places to drum and so forth. And we ended up hanging out with OJENKE. So I would go by OJENKE's and hang out, and he'd get to know me. But me, myself, I'm kind of what you would call, I just realized this last night, looking at myself, and I can say the same thing about OJENKE. But I'm very much an introvert. And I'm very much a loner. I've always been my whole life. But I also realized last night that I'm an anomaly. And that's what OJENKE was also, or is. So we sitting down, and he liked me coming over. Hey, brother, come on in. You know, hey, you want something to smoke? You want something to eat? Blah, blah, blah. And he was just so inviting and loving and open that I always felt comfortable around him. And he always enjoyed my energy too. Now, one thing I noticed about him, like I heard somebody saying at the service earlier today, he could play chess and be on the computer doing something else at the same time. And it's like, wow, this brother's at it. And then I said, he started talking about golf. I didn't know if he was really a fan of golf or if he was just a fan of the brother. What's his name? Tiger Woods. But he knew what was going on in the golf world. I was like, I ain't never met a black man who knew anything about golf. I mean, so it's not as serious as he was about it. So time goes on. And Teresa would talk to me. She always liked my family, my mom, my mother, my brother. And she would talk astrology. And I would talk to her about my sign, and I wanted to know more about my energy. And she always say, you got to talk to OJENKE, talk to OJENKE. So one day I finally made it into OJENKE's to ask him about my stars. And he took my birth date and he did the studies. When I got back to him, he tells me, you're a true Aquarian. I knew I was an Aquarius, but I always knew that there was other things in the signs and the stars that really makes you more of another sign. But he told me, you're a true Aquarian, brother. You really got it strong. You're Aquarian, you're an Aquarian. And that felt good to me. So let me see, is there anything else that I meant to say before I get down from here? But I just wanted to share that experience because I didn't know him long enough to really get deeply involved with him. And I'm not really a poet, and I wasn't around that whole scene like he was. But I always enjoyed him. And he was very much a blessed spirit and is a blessed spirit, and a strong one at that. So I like to say I give thanks that I had the opportunity in my life to meet him. Thank you very much, you all.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. I wanted to just say about OJENKE, about going over to his house. You didn't know who you might meet over there. And most of them were abstract geniuses. Believe me what I'm telling you. I remember one time, Rodney, what was that guy's name? Where's Rodney? The one that played chess with the world champion, Khalid. We were, OJENKE, they were all together, and somehow the greatest Russian chess player was in town. He was the world champion. So somehow he got there to watch, and he asked, did anybody want to play him, chess? They had the Watts Writers Workshop. And what was his name again, Rodney? Khalid. One of OJENKE's abstract friends stepped up and said, I'll play him. Now this is the world Russian and the world champion. He was a Russian. So they sat down with Khalid. This is OJENKE's partner. And OJENKE beat him. The boy beat him. The room was shocked. This is the world champion, and this little ghetto boy all looking all crazy just beat the mess out of him. Really embarrassed him. But that's the kind of characters that would be around OJENKE. Like Eric Priestley. Eric Priestley was a tutor at Cal State of geniuses. If they had a genius and he needed tutoring, they would bring Eric Priestley. Yes, but these were the guys, kind of characters that you may run into over his house. And they were all abstract geniuses. You couldn't be a person just a square as a pool table and twice as green. You couldn't be that dealing with OJENKE and his crowd because they were always brilliant. Thank you.
And OJENKE has not left us. We know this, and I have a poem here to prove that. But I also, how long did I know OJENKE? I've been attached at the hip to the Watts Towers for 45 years, so something like 40 years, certainly as long as I've known Father Amdi. But my friendship with OJENKE proceeded gradually, but so many important events, which I remember, very important. It was important that it was shared with him. That morning in 2000, when we gathered at Washington Prep to do a fundraiser to raise money for the medical bills for Horace Tapscott, who was ill. And when we arrived there that Saturday morning, Horace had died that morning. And I told this story here on the stage before. Nate Morgan came out to play the piano in honor of Horace Tapscott, who was his great mentor. And I was in the process of a long time making a documentary about the Watts Towers, and Horace was going to do the music. And here Horace was gone, and I was right in the front row, and I told this to OJENKE later that day, and a few years later when Nate died, but Nate did do the music for my film. Yes, that's right. I will keep it short. I'll keep it down. Thank you very much for reminding me. But as I was watching the stage, it seemed my eyes saw, and I remember telling the story on Horace Tapscott's birthday last year in April of 2024, that was Horace's birthday. I saw some kind of cloudy thing in that very dark auditorium, backlit, some kind of plasma, some kind of cloud dropping down, and it dropped right. It floated into Nate, and Nate started playing the piano, solo piano, like I'd never heard before. And I remember telling OJENKE, he said, yeah, it never played like that before. And Nate did wonderful music for that Watts Towers movie. And for the 50th, and so many things. I remember driving OJENKE to places, and for the 50th anniversary of the Watts Uprising, in August, it was August of 2015, I had asked Father Amdi to be on a panel where they were going, the American Cinematheque, which had shown my film at the Egyptian Theater back in 2005 or 2006 when I finished the movie. They liked to show the movie. They asked me, hey, let's do a screening of the Watts Towers movie for the 50th anniversary of the Uprising. And I was putting together a panel. The wonderful artist Charles Dixon, wonderful author Gerald Horne, wrote a great book about the Watts Uprising. Of course, Rosie Lee Hooks, the director of the Watts Towers Arts Center. And I asked Father Amdi to be on the panel. He said, no, Ed, you got to ask OJENKE. And, well, of course I had to ask OJENKE. And you know something? He wrote a wonderful poem. And there is a stack of these poems. I made a copy of this poem because he got up and he was well, Big Lou, you were there. He was weak. He was already ill at that time, but he stood up, and to clear his voice, he wrote a poem, and it's sitting on the desk. Please, and everybody have yourself an original OJENKE poem from 2015. If you do not have an OJENKE poem, you should have one, and if you do, you should have this one, because I'm sure you don't have this one. I don't know if it's ever been published anywhere. And it's called Shoot for the Stars, Sabato, which is the real name of Simon Rodia. What a wonderful poem. You take a copy, and if it runs out, we'll make more copies. And suffice it to say, and ever since then, well, even before that, I was a regular visitor over there on Mullen Street, visiting OJENKE, because I knew, the conversations we would get into. And enough of that. This will tell you how I feel. Yes. It's called, I call this poem Spark. Yes. A light shone there beneath the skin. Its source you'd see if you would look. It was sparked there in the eyes. Of course, that spark is love. We all are creatures sparked by love, but in how many eyes we meet, do we see that spark's identity with love, creation, all that is? There are some people, I've been told, whose deep connections in the soul with all around them shines most clear, mirrored in all that they hold dear. That spark is knowing, consciously or not, to love life in every form we find and feel it. Those who love never die.
I'm going to say a couple of words. I met OJENKE when he was Alvin Saxon Jr. I met him about 70 years ago. He is my oldest brother. So my brother Robert I think is the only person in the room right now that has known him longer than I have. Junior's the oldest, Robert's the second, I'm number 5. I'm the child of grace. I'm the quiet one in the family. With 3 older brothers and an older sister and a younger sister, there were 6 of us. And in our household, our parents encouraged us to think. They said you have to be able to think. They would tell us, okay, you know what, you have to know both sides of a story. So what our father would do, he would have us have debates. We didn't know what the topic was going to be at the time, and we didn't know whether or not we were going to have to take a pro or a con. But we knew that we had to be prepared, and we had to be able to think outside of the box. I'm so very, very grateful that the reason why you have OJENKE is because we had Alvin Saxon Sr. and our leader, Singleton Saxon. And what we have seen, even though Junior was born into our family, he was really a child of the world. He belonged to the world. He belonged to the community. And so I thank you, the community, for allowing him to be a part of the Saxon family. Growing up, my brother thought he was Kung Fu Charlie. As soon as our parents would leave to go to Bible study, to go to church, whatever, they would pull off, and as soon as they start pulling off, Junior, he decided he wanted to practice his karate on the 5 younger siblings. So we would always go and hide underneath the kitchen table, and we would hold the chairs, and he's trying to pull the chairs, and we holding the chairs, and and that was something that we would always do. Well, one day I decided, because a couple of things. One time he accidentally hit me. And that's not a good thing, okay? So what happened, I didn't do anything. I didn't cry. I just sit there and looked at him. A couple of hours later, when my mother and father were driving home, all of a sudden, I started like, and Junior looked at me like, what's wrong? Because I knew my parents was getting ready to come in. So when my dad came in, I said, Junior hit me, Junior hit me. So he got in trouble. So as a younger sister, I knew how to get back at my older brother. And then another time, he also knew how to get back at me because he was, Robert, you remember, he was playing baseball. Our family, we always went outside and we played. My parents, we came from a loving household. The reason why Junior talks about love so much is because our father didn't allow us to argue with one another. We had to say we loved one another. We were close with one another. There was not a day that passed that my mother and father didn't say they loved one another. They prayed together. They laughed together. They lived together. They loved together. And that's the way we were brought up. And but Junior was playing. He was an athlete, and so he was playing baseball. He had that bat, and he told everyone to move out the way. But I am the younger sister, so guess what? Just because my big brother tells me to move out the way, I'm not moving out the way. That's not, no, that's not what we do, right? Junior swung that bat, and the next thing I know, I was at the General Hospital because Junior, he swung the bat, and he hit me upside my head, and I had a mark for a very, very long time. And Dad said, my dad was talking to him, and Junior said, but I told her to get out the way, but I told her. So that was one of the series we had. And the last story I'm going to share with you was, he wanted something, and my father said no, and we had gone over to our cousin's house, and all of a sudden, they don't have the cell phone back at that time. All of a sudden, you hear the telephone ringing, and Junior calling, telling my dad, something happened. I don't know, I just went crazy, something happened. He got mad, and what he did, he had balled his fist, and he had hit a hole in the living room wall. So as soon as you walk in the house, you see this big old hole, right? So Dad loaded all of us up in the station wagon and got home. As soon as you walked in the house, you saw this big old hole in the living room. And Junior's like, Daddy, I promise. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I just went crazy. And Daddy said, you ain't seen crazy until you see what's going to happen now. Oh, and let me share this too. Junior was a fast runner. He ran the track. He was a fast runner, but what people didn't realize, he ran for Fremont. Right? Lawrence is laughing because he already knows. He thought he was quick, and he was quick because he was one of their star runners. But what they did not realize was my mother was quicker than he was. So my mother had called him, and some of the guys around, they were laughing, and Junior was like, "What you laughing about? Yeah, she can beat me running, but guess what? I can beat you running."
OJENKE. OJENKE was a wonderful father. And his son Jalil left before he did. So OJENKE wrote this piece, Shot to the Stars. It just touched me so much, and I just kind of want to share it with you if y'all hadn't heard this piece OJENKE wrote for his son Jalil, who left the planet before he did. Shot for the stars, got down to the nitty-gritty, and whatever he did, even under pressure, he was cool as a summer breeze. But this was an illusion, a sleight of mind, to conceal the constant draw and quartering of his understanding by people appearing to be righteous, but are actually inequity made flesh. And steeping quickly across the inscrutable brim of life, uprooting his genius intelligence, his God-given Solomonic wisdom, crushed under the weight of apparitions, rammed the door of his perception with illusions of sinister assassins. Out to get him, hiding behind thick curtains of emotions, he peeped through the cloudy windows of his turbulent soul and saw squads of villains huddling in the alley, scheming quietly to unravel his world, to sabotage his incredible intellect, his awareness of quotations unknown to average people. He was born sagacious, the legendary ring of Solomon around the base of his forefinger. Inspired thoughts jetted out of his mind like 747s at an airport. Ingeniously, he called Taco Bell Taco Hell. Jack in the Box, he called Rat in the Box. He dubbed my buddies with names like Day-to-Day JJ. What's new, Damu? What's up your sleeve, Cleve? He studied the great ideas of philosophy. Plato was his pillow. He read immense volumes of legal statutes. Yes, he was very quick on the jaw-jacking. His silver tongue shined in conversations like a sparkling jewel. His savvy Mac got him out of many a tight spots. After talking with a psychologist in the Kansas jail where he got busted, he was freed quick when the shrink said he was one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. King Solomon, once again illuminating the space and time around him, going straight to the target like the arrow shot by Robin Hood. He said riveting things like, "You, sir, are a bald-faced liar." He was a seeker of the good life. His thoughts never strayed far from his aim to be rich and come up in society. But he was also a black Sisyphus. No matter how much cotton he picked in a day, when he returned to the field the next morning, the cotton had grown back tenfold. Although he was strong as Samson and sagacious as Solomon, he saw no solid ground in America for his size 16s to stand on. Man, this is OJENKE. He was like Paul Robeson, pulverizing America's stereotype of the big, dumb, black menial, shuffling, ever-smiling black Sambo. The see no evil white people happy nose to the grindstone slave. Jalil was sharp as a razor's edge. He saw America was still a great inequitable plantation where black folks were stored in metropolitan warehouses called ghettos, urban slave quarters masquerading as projects, run-down tenement buildings, and the shadows of gentrified skyscrapers. The American dream turned into a sour aftertaste, the poisoned apple that got Adam and Eve booted out of Eden and put Sleeping Beauty in a coma. The cherry in the bottle that catches monkeys without the use of ropes. He saw the grand chasm partitioning African Americans from Caucasians. That is why he could not stomach grunting and groaning in the urbanized cotton fields of America. He concocted spectacular schemes to achieve his dreams of getting wealthy. Like Icarus, he overlooked important rules such as it does not take long for wax to melt in the sunshine. The distance between his dreams and his reality seems insurmountable. He shrugged, hung up his gloves. He was tired of being in a fixed fight where black folks were forced to be handicapped and shackled with 2-ton boxing gloves. Jalil reasoned it better to stand on the street corner with open palms stretched out to the world, supplicating for a crust of bread, than to get his hands riddled with blisters, slaving for white men. He understood the concept of dropping your line where the fish run. This is why he strolled to areas where the goods were abundant and in plain view. Ivory Snow white areas where the median income is up to the sky. This strategy kept him surviving homeless on the streets for 3 years. From his spectacular girth, it was clear he didn't miss many meals. He was fat as Oliver Hardy when he died in his sleep on the sidewalks of the city of the angels, dreaming of a golden future he could almost younch. So we like to pick a high. Come up, brother, and say something soulful to us. Pick a high. Music maestro.
Blessed family. How y'all doing? Man, I came out here to support my brother OJENKE. I'm not from Los Angeles. I'm from I was born in Compton, raised in Long Beach, and I hung out in Watts. So when I came to LA, it was kind of like, you know, I knew what I needed to do. And I got blessed with the opportunity of somebody walking me into OJENKE's house and saying this was the man. And he was the man. You know, he provided a home for me. He provided financial things for me. He provided so much. I mean, friendship, just even his life story, it matches mine so much well. I was going through a tough time at 13, and I wasn't going to be here much longer. But for some reason, the radio came on and Bob Marley played, and it pulled me out of that space where I wasn't. And then I come to LA and I meet the man who brought Bob Marley to us. And I look at this as a spiritual thing, not a human experience, or none of that stuff. Spiritually, I met my brother, and I'm going to miss my man. But he taught me so much, I can never miss him, really, because I think about him every day. So, yeah, that's what I want to say about my brother OJENKE. He's a very good man. He gave so much to the world, and I know the world can never appreciate him fighting for every person, black, white, Chinese, he didn't care. He just wants you to be all right. And we all right because of him, some way, somehow. And that's a good person. We meet a lot of people who do all kinds of things to us, but he was there for us, and he fed us. So I want to give a big shout out to my brother. And I hope we all get to keep him in our hearts as we move forward with our little time that we got left. Thank you.
each and every one that has come out and taken time, you know, to share this day for OJENKE. I'm extremely excited and very happy. OJENKE was my brethren, man, and it's just too much to talk about OJENKE. He's a legend, and it's hard to talk about a legend. Somebody that has, had an influence on many, many, many people in Los Angeles and the worldwide. I know when OJENKE passed away, calls was coming in from Europe, coming in from Africa, coming in from Australia. People was calling from all over the world because they couldn't believe the sound, the voice was gone. But OJENKE will be with us forever. His words live on forever. And you can read any of his words. He has a discography that's so great of his works that we could always share OJENKE and keep him with us through his prose, through his words, his actions. OJENKE was like Psalm 1 in the Bible. You know, blessed is the man that walketh in the counsel of the righteous. You dig? That was OJENKE. And he just kept a real straightforward and holistic attitude about life. And there was no wrong. There was you could not make a mistake. There was no accidents. Everything had a purpose. And OJENKE was, of all his things, I heard somebody talk about his astrology wisdom, because he kind of changed the face of astrology for most people that was into astrology. He dealt with sidereal astrology and not Western astrology. So it just kind of changes, what everyone thought there was. OJENKE went to the source for a lot of his information, actually went to the source for most of his information. So I'm good. OJENKE say he's good. Najite, you want to play can we play some drums for OJENKE? Can we light him up? Can I get the doon-doons, maybe play some djembe? And so we want to just do a little music for OJENKE right now. I think everyone has said all of the wonderful things they would like to say, and so we would like to impart some music on you before we get out of here, okay? You coming up and say something, son? Come on, man. All of that, you good. Pop's going to light it up. Go get your drum and I'll grab some doon-doons.
Yeah, so we about to play. I wasn't really going to say anything because, it's not easy for me to talk, but OJENKE was somebody that really brightened up my life. I didn't really expect to when I started hanging out with him with my pops, I didn't expect to really have a long conversation, but it was simple to talk to somebody that honest. He was somebody that when you talk about troubles and stuff like that, the room, you can meditate on those troubles and sit there and you've already spoken so much with one word, And I just want to say that the brilliant level of all that, it really affected me because it was surprising, One time I went there to play my keyboard for him because he had it out there, and what he told me was that I had a good ear, and I've been playing for 15 years, and people have given me a lot of bright comments and stuff like that, but they kind of left that out sometime. And I remember that affected me. I was like, you're brilliant. This is a brilliant nucleus we all need, and we have to keep that level for OJENKE, So that's what I wanted to say.
Blessed, blessed. My name is Ross Jimmy Hyman, and first I'd like to give the Ethiopian chant, Tinjole Salada Yo Tala Shalane, Salam Ekeleke Mu Meslan Fiskas. That means, Lord, have mercy upon us, forgive us for all our sins. Peace be unto us all and with thy spirit. Well, OJENKE, that brother, I'm an Angelino, like the brother there, raised up in L.A., and along with my wife, Maxine. He went to 99th, Gompers, and Fremont, the Pathfinders. So the vibration that we would reason up a lot of times, and he would talk about words, sound, and power, art, music, and theology, as King Oji would know. And the vibration would be that the Bible, the music, and also the herb is one. It's the oneness. It's the oneness, what he talked about, the one love. So I'm going to do a poem that the vibration come from the CD 5-wheel drive called Birth of the Cool, Jazz Cool. He was really into John Coltrane. I was really into Miles Davis. So this is called From Ragtime to Bebop. In 49, Samin Chops was cutting through kind of blue. It was birth of the cool, birth of the cool, birth of the cool jazz cool, Mr. Miles, Dewey Davis, mysterious. The exact glow of a Satchmo, he's a legend to the end, man. There'll be no remakes of Miles. His seldom smile. He's not a loner with his back in the corner. He's the essence of a tongue stuck in and out of a horn. He coined the fable of a Gabriel. One day his prince did come. And when I traced his footprints, I meant it was at the lighthouse, down at the Village Vanguard, up at the Blue Note. Remember Denver and Ebbets Field? He was my meal at the Berkeley and the Greek Theater, later at the Hollywood Bowl. Miles put it in my soul. He had his own bitches brew. We all knew it was the next phase. The illusion of jazz fusion, rock, funk, and even reggae, and then came a silent wave. It went from Spanish Key to Sketches of Spain. Miles feeling no pain. He took aim. His fix was to get in the mix, to use his tricks to get some licks in. And when Miles Cornett played Cornish octets of half notes, quarter notes, and even 11, he took 7 steps to heaven and blew. It's about that time. Miles laid down a lifestyle of fine riffs, vamps, and drifts all day, all night, till around about midnight. Miles was cool. Like cool cigarettes with a K and Kool-Aid, fading to jive, talking moans. Miles, he played with exactly as in the shade when he turned the name of Sunglasses to Shade and played a Murphy game of his own in the tone of do 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 do. So what? Do 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 do. So what? Sounds like Russian elephants to melodic silhouettes in the same breath. The master, the doctor, initials MD for most daring, current for his Queen Bee Cecily. He was the ladies' man, the voodoo child. His ritual was a necessity. Miles played with Training, Bird, and Dizzy and Cannonball. Birth of the cool, birth of the cool, birth of the cool, that's cool. Bebop be spoken here. Bebop be spoken here. Bebop to doo-wop to hip-hop to the one drop, and then don't stop. Bebop to doo-wop to hip-hop to the one drop, and then don't stop. Love you more, OJENKE. Rastafari. Blessed love.
Yo, we can't stand up here and be drumming. It ain't no fun to drum with people looking at you. We here for OJENKE. And everybody got to get up and do a dance step for OJENKE. Once you stop dancing, life is over. You can forget it. But if you got a dance step in you, you come up here and you salute your brethren, OJENKE. Last number, everybody get up. You can do anything you want except sit down. Salute your brother. Salute your brother OJENKE. Men Johnny.